I am Pilot Pass. Wait, Dell, are you Pilot Pass?
Together we are Pilot Pass.
Us alone. That's how co-hosts work. I got you now. I just wasn't understanding.
Right.
Okay.
I thought it was coat. I thought it was coat host. I've been buying all these coats.
Can we buy coats?
I know. I don't. I'm chilly.
Well, that's because you're always chilly. Just like if you were on the moon. I think it's cold up there, right? Moonbase 8. That's what we're talking today.
There's no atmosphere.
Moonbase 8 is the new show on Showtime. One of like 23 new outer space shows this year for some reason. I don't know why. We'll get into that later. But it stars the great John C. Reilly, the great Fred Armisen, the great Tim Heidecker, and that other guy's a football player.
Yeah, Travis Kelce.
Yes. Yes, I've never cared less about somebody in my entire life.
We will say that he's in the pilot.
Yes, he is. He is indeed. And that's what we'll talk about today. The pilot entitled Dry, which seems very appropriate for the title or for the pilot episode.
I like this one.
Del, will you tell the people a little bit about Moonbase 8?
So would you like the synopsis of the show or how the show came about?
Ooh, let's go with how the show came about because I'm unfamiliar with this story.
Yes, I was actually watching one of Conan's live interviews. It's one of the first he's done, and it was with John C. Reilly recently in person. And John C. Reilly just said they were kind of all hanging out and wanted to do a show where they could just hang out as buddies and make the show. And Showtime hadn't picked it up. Nobody had picked it up. They just wanted to make a show where the three of them got to hang out. So A24 stepped up, the production company, who's really been doing a lot these last couple of years, and agreed to finance the show. And so they had to think of all these different, they didn't even have a premise yet. They were like, well, where could we stick three guys where they could be all alone, a small environment, they can't leave, low production value. And they had remembered that there were, these biodome experiments. I'm sure it was based on the famous movie Biodome.
The movie Biodome. Oh, yeah.
The other guy. So
wasn't that one of the
it
ball
basically
ones?
said that it was an excuse to let them all hang out and just write together. Of course, Tim Heidecker and John C. Reilly have worked on Tim and Eric Awesome Show. And one of the other main creators that was, Johnathan Krisel is one of the main writers and producers for the Tim and Eric Awesome Show. But he knows Fred Armisen from writing and directing a lot of the Portlandia episodes. And so he's kind of the tie between those two groups. Oh, he also did Baskets as well.
Oh, what a wonderful show that we need to talk about because
so he's got his hand in a lot of good stuff.
Oh, that is glorious. Yes, he is. He does. And he is. And it's not the amazing Kreskin, correct? Not the same person?
No, that's not. Nor the amazing Johnathan.
Okay. They're different people. All amazing in their own right, but uniquely different people. Okay, I got you. Cool. Now we understand a little bit about
that's how individuals work, Matt.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I've been reading a lot about lizard people, so that's all I know about right now. Do you know lizard people?
They're not coat people. They're not very fan of coats.
Ridiculous.
So I guess we should talk about the premise of the show then. Is that the three main guys, and that would be let's see, John C. Reilly is Cap. Robert Cap Caputo.
Yep.
Tim Heidecker is Professor Scott Rook Sloan, who's a Christian who wants to spread the gospel of Jesus out into the universe. And Fred Armisen is Dr. Michael Skip Hinney. He's the son of a former astronaut. And it's kind of hinted at that John C. Reilly used to serve in the military, and that's where he got the name Captain. And we find out that is not to be true, that even though he can pilot helicopter, he just owned a tourism company that went out of business.
Oh, it happens sometimes, especially in this environment. So these three fellows, plus that terrible person we talked about earlier, Kelsey,
he gives an all right cameo. I've seen worse, but
he's all right. Yeah. He's all right. They go to a moon-based training simulator located in the wonderful town of Winslow, Arizona. I'm going to go wonderful.
Is anything wonderful in Arizona?
Bisbee, Arizona. That's where Doug Stanhope hangs out.
Scottsdale's not bad.
See, there you go. Yeah, it is. So they all take their trip to Winslow, Arizona, hoping to be the crew selected by NASA to travel to the actual moon base, whose construction is near completion. Now, Del, let me ask you a question. Donald Trump started the Space Force, so I assume we've already got a base on the moon in real life, right?
Right. That is exactly what happened, because as we know, everything that he has said he would do, he got done.
He completed.
There's definitely a Space Force going. Boots on the Moon 2024. No, one of the things that I thought was a great joke here is that nobody knows what NASA stands for.
Right.
There's the bit. Well, let's finish the plot. So what happens is, after a week, it turns out their water storage has gone empty. And I think it's probably from Cap watering the football players' moon rover. Probably. Although that later in the show they say there was a breach in the tank and it drained out. But he says that the football player has him wash his rover twice a week, and even though he's the captain, he does it for him. Anyway, within a week they run out of all the water for the month. And so they're going to have to figure out a way to make it through the next 3 weeks without dying or calling in for help, which would kind of render them, failures in the eyes of NASA for the team to go to the moon.
Little do they know they're already going to be failures regardless. They are going to be viewed as failures.
Right. These are certainly not the best of the best. These are people that want to go, but probably aren't team number one or beta team or anything like that.
For sure.
So, let's see. Kelsey's idea is to drill for water. Now, barring the fact, first of all, they're on planet Earth in a simulation, so maybe they would hit water in the middle of a desert.
Yep.
The idea that would be the solution you would use on the moon still doesn't hold up. So why you would try to do that, I don't know.
Sure.
Armisen says, I'm going to need to do an environmental impact report. That's a couple of 100 pages before we can really safely do anything. But Cap and Kelsey go out anyway and dig a hole, and Kelsey falls in the ground and dies in the subterranean caverns.
Well, you don't even have to ask me. That is my favorite moment from the first episode. Just as he disappears off screen, I was like, oh, thank goodness that's how this is going to be.
I really was, because I'll admit I disliked him, but I can't tell if that was because he was such a good actor that I was like, he's a football player, but maybe he's wonderful in real life. And he actually convinced me to dislike him that much.
Yeah, you want to know what's dumb? I loved Hulk Hogan in every movie he was ever in. If Bo Jackson was in a movie, I would have been all over it. But you put this newfangled young kid out there.
BoJack Horseman for some reason.
If BoJack Horseman's in any other show, I'd watch that too.
Yes.
So I have some extreme
Space
disdain.
Jam's a perfect movie.
Oh, Space Jam 2. I'm ready for that. So I said my favorite moment of the first episode. Now, I'm kidding, of course. There are a lot of great one-liners that the team have together. But did you have a specific moment or a line that you really enjoyed?
Had two, and I actually wrote them down. I took notes this time.
Holy crap.
So my first one is when they were talking about how they had run out of water. Somebody suggested, why don't we just start drinking the oil in the kitchen?
Yeah.
And Armisen says, we can't drink oil. That's not the same thing as water. And
but it's liquid.
Like, well, no, it is. If you mix it with vinegar, it's drinkable. And he's like, well, no, that's just salad dressing. And he's like, I know, but you can drink that. I had a salad one time and I didn't finish it. Also just slurped it and it was fine. That was a good line. And then when they say they're members of NASA, the different things they think it stands for are the National Association of Space Astronauts, the North American Space Association, the Nautical, because they think it started with boats, Astronomy Society of Adventuring, and it doesn't stand for anything. It's just a word. Is what the opposite things.
I know the Nautical one was definitely my favorite. I was all in on that.
My favorite bit.
That was a lot of good stuff. I think that every time that poor Cap has to follow around the football player and do his bidding, that sad face that John C. Reilly can make, every time it gets me.
He's so good. And I mean, I've seen him and Heidecker work together plenty of times, but to see Armisen brought in really made a difference. And I guess say that every single episode was written by the three of them plus Krisel, who directed every episode. So I always like when there's the one guy behind the camera, like Workaholics is like that. There's the three main guys that are on screen, and then there's the guy that drives the rape van and he directs every episode.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So it's nice when everybody has their place and you get a good crew going. I always like that.
And it's always smart to have an extra person to do that disgusting job that nobody wants to do, like the guy from the rape van. You always need one person just to hold them back so they can do that.
Yeah. I just got to say this show was fun. You really do feel like you're just hanging out in a treehouse with these three guys. You know, it's exactly what the show's supposed to be. You're just hanging out with three of the weirdest comedians alive today on a Moonbase. Oh, because then we guess to say, so your solution to not dying when they don't have any more water left is to drink the one bottle of champagne.
Yep.
So they each take one sip just to get their mouth wet, and they end up binging on like 6 bottles of the champagne.
That's the way to deal with dehydration.
Yeah, which is even worse. It's a diuretic. It's not going to help them at all. They fall asleep outside in a moon bath, as they call it, gazing up at the moon. They go inside. The next morning, they call it in, but the ambulance comes. They retrieve Kelsey out of the ground, and they just don't say anything. And it's left the assumption that Kelsey went off on his own and dug a hole in the ground, died. And so really nobody's at fault. NASA closes the books and says, well, I guess it was nobody's fault. They all want to stay on. They fix the tank. They have water. And the show ends with John C. Reilly's, re-cleaning a rover and then shooting water into the air and just wasting it again.
Do you remember what the first thing that they talked about saying happened to Kelsey? Like, it was, I don't remember if it was John C. Reilly that said it or who said it, but it was something just absurd.
No, I guess I don't.
I forgot. Yeah, but it was just like, well, we can tell him that he was looking for lilies and he fell on the ground or something. They was all trying to not blame it on them.
Yeah, I do remember what they wrote in their official report, but they didn't send. It was something really simple like, "Dear NASA, Kelsey has gone missing. We think it's because of gambling debts. You might want to try checking the Las Vegas Strip."
That's what it was.
Signed the crew. And then they said, well, hold on. If we send this, now we're in trouble. So why don't we hold off a day?
Yep. Wait till we incriminate ourselves with the lies.
Right.
That is good stuff. You know what? I'm going to skip that question. I'm going to go to another question that I'm going to ask you that I introduced when we first started the episode. Why are there so many outer space comedies this year?
I think it's, well, obviously some were in the works beforehand, but I think it was honestly the Space Force idea from Trump. But also that we've, as a nation, have been looking to go back for quite a while. The Chinese have been looking for the last couple of years. India's recently started launching stuff into space. The International Space Station has been in the news really heavily for about the past 3 or 4 years. So I think we're getting associated with the idea of space again. And we've seen Avenue 5. Mm-hmm. So we've seen the new Star Treks. Mm-hmm. We've seen Space Force.
Yep.
Moonbase 8. I feel like I'm forgetting another one that was all this year.
I guess Star Trek Avenue doesn't really count.
Last year.
No, Avenue 5 was this year. Like early in the year, I think. Yeah. So yeah, it's been.
I know we did an episode on it, and it's gone forever.
We did indeed. Yeah, it's been a fascinating little trend. Like I'm always interested to see what TV shows are doing every year. I mean, that's why we do pilots, to kind of see what the zeitgeist of the industry is. And this year, it's just been NASA and outer space and stuff. It's been really interesting because a show like this. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, McFarlane's Orville. Even was only 2 or 3 years old.
I knew there was
now.
Another one.
And that kind of started re-kicking off. And I believe there's even a new actual Star Trek, like live action TV show. So it's back in the zeitgeist for sure.
Yeah, and it's a show like this, it's almost like an improv bit. So it's hardly about the moon and it's more about the characters and stuff. But then as you go to the Orville, that's very serious. And you took that very serious about being in outer space and doing those kind of things. And as we're talking about the Orville, could it also have been Neil deGrasse Tyson bringing back the Wonders of the Universe show?
Well, and remember, actually, Seth MacFarlane was the one that produced and put together the show, the Cosmos show, and then Neil deGrasse hosted it. So maybe Seth MacFarlane's kind of not to blame, but to thank for this renewed interest. Well, don't forget, we also had SpaceX. We had the guy in the car orbiting, Earth. And then we had the first image of a black hole in this last year or two.
Right.
So we've had a lot of space oriented news coming out in the last 3 years. And I think people are getting re-interested in it again. Maybe it's just because there's been more discoveries, or maybe there's been more discoveries because more people are getting interested in it again.
Could be. And you didn't even talk about aliens in there that we know that are here now too. So that's crazy. Isn't 2020 the year
the monoliths that are going up everywhere?
Yes, I know. That's I don't know, but that would be really embarrassing if the aliens were just out there watching our movies and just copying what we did. I'd be really sad about the universe if that was the case.
Yeah. I also read the one, I think the second one that was put up, the metal one, it's just like riveted tin. So like the aliens, it's not even like super special, they're just like, run to Home Depot, grab us some rivets. We're going to put this thing up to vastly increase human intelligence based on that one movie we saw.
That's right. Good luck, America and people of the world. So that's it's been a crazy year, man. It's been a crazy year. So back to Moonbase 8. Do we have bad parts? Were there parts that you did not like about the episode?
There were parts that were mildly slower. And to be honest, just because I'm thinking Tim and Eric and Portlandia, which are just completely zany. Mm-hmm. This was more subdued in relation to like things these other guys work on. And it was a drier humor, but I loved every bit of it.
So maybe my problem with the football player is not necessarily with him, but this idea that we're still dealing with this bully mentality from a sports athlete. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but
that seems
like an old idea.
Silly. Yeah, that was a little weird. And they did say the only reason Travis Kelce is on the crew is it was with a deal between NASA and the NFL to get cross promotion since he's the Super Bowl winner. So they acknowledged that. But that was the one weird thing. I was like, what an old trope to be like, oh, the football guy is bullying the science nerds, even though they're on a moon base and they all need to survive. You're right. That might have been the one weaker. But then again, we should say he's only in, as far as I know, the first episode. So maybe they felt comfortable writing that simple trope and he came in, just did it.
Just like a couple days on there. I'll allow it. I'll approve it. Now, Del, let me ask you the question that you always look forward to, but you haven't answered yet, so you'll actually have to answer it today. Okay. Let's play Netflix, shall we? Let's talk about some shows that if you like Moonbase 8 or you dislike Moonbase 8, they might relate to this show. So, Del, do you have anything off the top of your head?
Let's go through Portlandia, Tim and Eric, awesome show. Tom Goes to the Mayor. If you like any of the stuff that Heidecker's done before, John C. Reilly, Walk the Line, or, he works a lot with Will Ferrell too. So any of the movies, barring Holmes and Watson, you've got stuff like Talladega Nights. Anything where they pair up is good. But I really think a lot of the space shows, because they have different takes. This was very dry, but a small set where you have something like Space Force that I think we even talked that never really found. A lot of people complained it wasn't funny enough. Some people thought it found the route there. And then you have something that's completely zany, it starts like Avenue 5. So I'd say all of those would definitely go. I think you can pass on Lower Decks only because I just still feel that is a low budget version of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, and I agree with that. One of the things I will push back a little bit on is that I don't think that if you like this show, you like Tim and Eric, because I do not like Tim and Eric in any way, shape, or form.
It is very different.
I love those guys, but I don't like that show. So I'm going to give you one that I don't know if we've ever even talked about on the show, but I want to stay with that dry humor of Fred Armisen and give you the Bob Newhart Show. If you like dry humor,
I can see that.
There's nothing more dry than Bob Newhart, and that show was the epitome of that.
I could definitely see that, but I could also even see something where if you just like the dynamics of a couple of people locked in a small area, I know the Office crew gets bigger and bigger, but something like Parks and Rec or even The Office or 30 Rock, where it is a work sitcom and there's 8 people or less that you really have to focus on. And you before they start getting into season 3 and beyond, where every sitcom goes zany, this still feels like a workplace comedy,
How about a little bit of Gilligan's Island? Did you feel a little bit of that in here?
I did, but there was no Skipper.
There was no Skipper.
It was all Gilligan's.
It was. maybe Kelsey is one of the ladies, but yeah, everybody else was Gilligan.
Yeah, exactly. He was the female Marianne.
Yeah. He was Ginger and Marianne. I couldn't remember.
Or the male Ginger, whatever.
I hear what you're saying. So we've done that. We told the people a few little things about that. I want to talk a little bit about Fred Armisen. Can we do that, please? Absolutely. He is so underrated, I think, to a lot of people in the sense that there's nothing that he can't do. He plays in Jimmy Fallon's band. He did Portlandia, so he can write and act. He's funny as every time he shows up, even in a commercial, he's hilarious. And he's just an all-around fantastic fella.
One of my favorite, most original stand-up shows I've ever seen is Fred Armisen doing only jokes for musicians.
I know
and
what
he
you're
has
talking about.
like 7 drum sets set up, and he's only doing jokes like, you know how you hit a cymbal like this? Isn't it funny? Or like, when you're trying to tune a drum line, it's like no one except drummers is going to laugh at this at all. So what a weird, very, very specific and incredibly funny show that was. And that's just his type of humor. He's well, even in Portlandia, when he played, I'm just a little guy. Just lift me up. I'm a little guy. I always loved that character too.
His teammate there was Carrie Brownstone, correct? That was her name?
Yes, that's correct.
She's working on a new project as well. I'm very excited about. She directed something new, so that's pretty cool. How about is this anybody's best work? I know the answer to that, but I have to ask anyhow.
I gotta say no, only because I gotta say no. I mean, John C. Reilly's a movie star, even if it's like a B level.
Yep.
I mean, come on, Step Brothers is considered a classic. Talladega Nights,
Walk
a lot
Hard.
of Adam McKay stuff. His work with Will Ferrell, Dewey Cox is just almost perfect. Fred Armisen is always going to be known for Portlandia.
Yep.
And honestly, Portlandia is better and funnier and zanier. And Tim Heidecker, even if you're not a fan of Tim and Eric Awesome Show, has just done so much. I still have Tom Goes to the Mayor, which was just one of the most original concepts I remember seeing. But even the movie, they had a movie, Tim and Eric's movie.
Awesome movie.
I don't know if you ever saw Awesome Movie. Was that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The opening is clearly somebody meant to look like Johnny Depp. And you're like, oh, they couldn't even get Johnny Depp for the movie, but it's definitely supposed to be Johnny Depp. And then later they admit they blew all the money on production value of hiring the Johnny Depp lookalike because they couldn't hire Johnny Depp. So they were even aware they couldn't get him. That was pretty good. So no, I would say everybody else has done something that is more in their vein, but this is a great blend of all 4 of these guys.
Is this Winslow, Arizona's high water mark?
Which is Winslow, Arizona?
That's where they take place. That's where this takes place.
Oh,
but
the place
also,
Arizona.
It's in the Eagles song
like
as well.
Name Winslow, Arizona. There you go. I didn't even know about it. I thought it was a porn name. So yes, I would guess that has to be.
So that might be the high water mark for Winslow. How about for I
was gonna say, how about the lady that reviews them at the end? Is that her high mark?
No, it's gotta be. Yes. Yes, she could definitely have a high water mark for that one.
Aaliyah Shawkat, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So far in her career, that would be a high water mark. I agree with that. Oh, the champagne. Is this the high water mark for drinking champagne when you're dehydrated?
When you're dehydrated, yes. The better one and a high mark would be in Adam McKay's The Big Short, where Margot Robbie is sitting having a glass of champagne, explaining what short selling is.
I was going to go with Wolf of Wall Street.
One of my favorite uses of champagne. Do what? Oh, Wolf of Wall Street's great too. Yeah.
Yeah, they have some good champagne shots in there as well. All right, we've talked about it all. There's only one last thing to do, Del. We've come to the part where I ask you the penultimate question, even though that's not the word that I'll be using right now, but I'll use the word anyhow.
That's not the right word.
Get over it.
Just ask me one question at the end afterwards, and that makes it fine.
Would you recommend Moonbase 8 to the people? The pilot episode called Dry? Was it Dry or Dirt?
Yes, wholeheartedly.
Excellent.
Unless you don't like good stuff or fun stuff, If you're one of those people, I don't know if you ever watched the what was that show? Edward Scissorhands. There was the crazy Christian lady who only played hymnals all the time, and she'd peek out through the windows.
Sure.
If you're that type of person, or possibly a person who goes, I don't own a TV, I don't own Netflix, then no, you probably wouldn't enjoy a TV show at all. But otherwise, if you're a normal person with a good sense of humor, I think you're going to like this.
I was super nervous when I hit play and I saw Kelsey on the screen. And that first 8 minutes with him, I was like, what has Dell gotten me into? And then I waited until he died. And then I go, oh, okay, now I can be in. So I recommend the last 18 minutes of the show. The first 12, I could live or die with it. Yep. So that's my
when I was sold was when none of the people who want to go to the moon for NASA know what NASA stands for, including the son of a former astronaut. That sold me on who these characters are.
All in after that, for sure. All right, well, that was Moonbase 8. Another episode of Pilot Pass is in the book.
Another perfect episode.
Perfect.
Pilot Pass.
Perfectly played Pilot Pass.
As long as you edit out.
For sure.
Yeah, that sneeze and that cough. And that one time I said that one word that's not appropriate. Ooh, I hope nobody remembers that one.
That one
but
time
otherwise perfect.
I use that word incorrectly, as I always do on every episode. Not a specific word. It's just I always make up a word whenever we're doing this, because I've learned from Trump. That's what I've learned from. Dell, tell the people where they can find us if they want to find us.
Let's see. On most social platforms, you can just type Pilot Pass. That includes YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. If it helps, you can also add Pullen and Pizana to it. That usually helps to pull it up. On Twitter, we are Pilot Pass Pod. So it'd be great if you followed us on there. One of the things that really helps us out right now is on YouTube. We need to hit 100 subscribers to be able to have our personalized UIL. And we're about 80 people away from that right now. So I know we've only been going about a year, but the sooner we hit that, do it.
Is that URL?
URL.
I don't know what UIL is. I mean, I know what UIL is, but not in their internet.
The URL.
Oh, okay.
We will be at UIL competitions doing live shows.
Yes, we will.
Actually, as soon as COVID's over, we're going to look about doing a live show.
At UIL competition, I'm all
That's what we'll do. Just sneak in. Yeah. And then, of course, Patreon, the most important one, because right now we're trying to get enough money together to put together for T-shirts, some merchandise, some stickers. We've got a logo, people. Now we want that to put that logo on you and stuff that you own. But we need your money to do it.
Exactly. What am I, spending my own cash? What am I, a hump over here?
Also, Audible. Hey, look over here. Look over here, Casper Bed Mattresses.
Right.
Somebody to sponsor.
Me Undies, somebody. I'll take the taco shop down the street.
I'll take anybody. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, sir, thank you for having this fantastic, perfect episode of Pilot Pass about Moonbase 8. Is there anything else you want to tell the people before we go?
No, just stay tuned for our next episode, which who knows what it'll be. We're going to record Saved by the Bell, but who knows what order these post in. So maybe this won't make any sense at all, or you'll already know it.
Trust me, Dell, it never makes any sense regardless.
Yeah. And look forward to next year, because we've already got a huge list, and we've got a list of guest hosts that are going to be coming on. So it's going to be quite a year for our second year.
Little does Dell know that we're doing 25 episodes about Moesha.
If we have to do a Moesha podcast, I will need a paycheck.
Good luck with that.